Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro Division with the tournament win for the qualifying round in the Savannah Tournament here in Golf Clash the game. Make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. You can get the ultimate tournament guides by going to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. We do have for Pro, Expert and or Master, and link is directly in the description down below. My focus for this playthrough and the qualifying round of Pro has to be to tune down the amount of kingmakers to be used, because I do feel that we want to not go with as many kingmakers as we have usually done. So my main focus has been to go with the power 2 balls like katana balls, but also bundle in a couple of titans. We are using one kingmaker in this video, which is in a certain scenario where we go for a very aggressive rough bump. Other than that, we have no kingmakers to use, and we do have an excellent playthrough for you all. Follow the adjustments in the info box on the right hand side. Club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I do suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions. You don't have to follow what I do suggest, but as you know, there's always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. For hole number 1, we're going to play on the right hand side using the driver that gives us the most power possible. In my case, that is the Extra Mile level 8. 2.5 bars of topspin and 3 bars of side spin to the right. Now, look at my ball guideline. You can see that I'm looking to be just left of the sticky spot on that fairway. So wiggle a little bit left and right and you will notice where that spot is. Once that is done, we shall adjust for maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment. Time to take the shot, and we're going to add a curl. So we're going to have the right side of the ball halfway into the wall on the right. You can also notice that we do play with a katana. We don't need to play with anything more than a power 2 ball. Bounces nicely on the fairway. We're looking to get this ball down to around 345 yards. 344 yards, and now the trick here for the second shot is that we're going to look for minimum distance of our club. You can see there is minimum distance. From there, we're gonna push up 5 rings. Okay, we have pushed up 5 rings, and from here, now we're going to adapt and use a backspin, so the ball guideline go just slightly short of hole, approximately a half a green square short of hole. 5% elevation, and when we do push up 5 rings, we're going to adjust for 7% slider with a 5% elevation. And the important part with this here now is that, once again, keep yourself with pushing up 5 rings. Always 5 rings is what you shall push up. Then it's 7% slider, 5% elevation. Power 2 ball settings, obviously. Perfect ball. Bounces nicely on the fairway. We like when the camera zooms in like this, right at pin for a beautiful eagle here on hole number 1. For hole number 2, we do have a very boring wind, and we're just going to take it very, very easy. 4.5 bar top spin, 2 bars of side spin to the right. Look, now, as we did on hole number 1, we're still going to do the same here now, looking for to be just left of the sticky spot once we have added spin. +7 yard mark with Extra Mile level 8. And once again, 4.5 bar top spin, 2 bars of side spin to the right. I'm using a power 3 ball to prevent us from having to go much with overpower. Right side of the ball, just outside the wall to the right. And now we're going to apply 1 ring of overpower. So my trick here is to use whatever we adjust into overpower and add 1 ring. So let's say that I do adjust 1 ring into overpower. I should have used 2 rings of overpower and so forth. And the reason I say that is because we will sometimes get a different wind angle and therefore go more into overpower than what I did there on the video. And also if we do play with a lower level type of driver. Second shot, we're going to transport the ball to be close to green or on the green. Now, when having headwind here, we're going to have to go with overpower, and we need to be careful with 2 things really. 1, to not fall down into the bunkers. And then, you know, the second part is that we don't want to go too long. So 1.8 top spin, 1 bar of left spin. I'm gonna adjust maximum distance with a 20% over adjustment, and you can see here that I'm using 2 rings of overpower. I went 1 ring into overpower, so here I did apply the same type of structure here by adding 1 extra ring. You can see that we barely clipped the rough, but that's totally fine because I do not expect this one to drop regardless, because this is a very tough wind. We can't really do much, so the only thing that I would like us to focus on is to not go too long and not go too short. And if we are in the position we are now, I will take that all day and every day and just lock in the eagle with my wedge. For hole number 2, we're going to have 2 options for you. One, we're going to start with the bounce over option, which we do see as the least chance of dropping for an hole-in-one. 2.5 bar backspin, 1.8 bars of side spin to the right. Now we're looking to be just before it turns to +2, with the top right of the white ring by the rough line. From there, we're going to, in this case, I do adjust 1 to 1, which is 7.5 rings for 7.5 miles per hour. What we want to do, though, is to adjust according to the info box on the right side, which is maximum distance with a 5% and power 2 ball settings, which will give us approximately 0.3 decimals more to our shot. And you're gonna notice why this is going to be important, because we come in with a good speed though, but we're coming too much to the right and we fall down to the right side of the pin. So we do need those extra decimals to get this ball to drop inside the cup, obviously. So this is, you know, a safe option, I would say. I would call this a very safe option, where a birdie is going to be the case regardless of what you do with your adjustment, or if you do hit great. And obviously, there will be a chance for an hole-in-one if doing as suggested here in this playthrough. But let's take a look at the rough bump, which I do feel is a way better chance for an hole-in-one. For the rough bump option, we're going to play with our quarterback, and once again with a katana ball. 3.2 bars of backspin is what we're going to use. And here I'm looking to be the bottom part of the yellow ring by the edge of the sand trap line. You can also see that the top right of the inner ring to be just by the sand trap line to the top right. Ball guideline should be going to the hole, so have that in mind. And you know, if we're going to be picky, I want it to be just left side of the pin slightly. Minimum distance with a -5% under adjustment for this shot, and that is because we're playing the rough bump and we don't have the secondary wind effect to adjust for. Center the ball and hit perfect, and you will see this ball bounce nicely into the rough and roll down towards the pin. Looking at where the ball lands, and as we play with a 100 accuracy driver, means that there should be room for a minor great left and a minor great right. However though, a bad great left will most likely miss the rough, and a bad great right will most likely go down into the bunker. But the chance of an hole-in-one with a perfect is miles better, in my opinion, to do the rough bump than to do the bounce over shot like first shown here for hole number 3. So in the end, you decide what you want to do. 2 options for you to crush hole 3. For hole number 4, we're going to give ourselves a very good attempt to make an eagle, and we're going to start by using, in this case, 4.5 bar topspin, 1 bar side spin to the left. The reason I'm only using 4.5 bar topspin is to focus on the fact that we can actually play the same type of play with a lower level type of extra mile. So we are in absolute maximum distance, ball guideline pointing straight down the fairway. Adjustment is maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, and the final piece that we're going to add is we're going to add a slight overpower if we do adjust into overpower. That's very important. If you don't adjust into overpower, don't use any overpower whatsoever. 350 yards. From 350 yards, we are going to play this one with our slider. And it's very important here now that you first and foremost look for the bottom part of the red ring to be just by the rough line. And once you have done that, we are going to adapt backspin. In this case, we have a little bit more than 3 bars of backspin, and that's going to be all from 2.5 backspin to 4 5 bars of backspin, depending on how long or short your drive it's going to be. 46% slider, no elevation is what we're going to adjust here, and it's very important to pull over the bullseye when you're playing with your short iron. Center the ball and hit perfect, and you're going to see yourself be either super duper close, or let's say like this, if you do everything correct, this is going to drop for a nice eagle here on hole number 4. Hole number 5 is extremely tricky due to the very bouncy fairway and green, and therefore we're going to focus on the rough bump. 3.2 bars of topspin, 3 bars side spin to the right, top of the red ring by the edge of the rough line, with the right side of the blue ring by the sand trap line. Ball guideline pointing towards the hole, with the tip of it pointing just slightly right of pin, but most importantly, focus on the red and the blue ring. Adjustment in the video is minimum distance with a 5% over adjustment, power 1 ball settings. What I would like us to do though is to use power 0 ball settings instead. And the reason we're gonna do that is due to the result here in the video, because in the video here you will see me miss to the left, which means that we're over adjusting our shots. We need just slightly less, and therefore the power 0 ball settings is what we're going to use for a better chance for an hole-in-one here on hole number 5. For hole number 6, we're going to play with a big topper, regardless of what level you have it in, because you can see we're nowhere near maximum distance with a big topper. Now, the thing that I'm looking at, look at the ball guideline. You can see that it is pointing in between the fairway on the left and the bunker on the right, and I want to have the second bounce with the spin added just before it is clipped away by the rough. From there, we're going to adjust maximum distance with a 20% over adjustment, even though we're not in max distance. Full curl to the right, and yes, that is possible even with lower level type of big topper, but it's important that it is max, because it should be max in regardless of what level you have your big topper in. Ball comes down to the fairway in a very nice way, and we're looking at 343 yards. Second shot, we're going to have the possibility to use the plus yardage, but this one is a tough shot. And the reason this is a tough shot is because the green slopes downhill, and it's very easy to get fooled by the ball guideline to show that we're going to come in way hot on this shot, but we're going to have to really make sure that the ball guideline goes through the hole like this, at least in the visual aspect of it, because if we don't do that, we're going to fall short like I'm going to do here in the video. 1 bar backspin, 1 bar left spin. You can see that the ball guideline go through the hole. We need to leave the ball guideline through the hole a little bit more. Adjustment here, I do adjust for max plus 5, but we do need a little bit more, and I would estimate this one to, sorry, we don't need a little bit more, we need to leave the ball guideline through the hole. So in the end, I would like us to play around 10% elevation, somewhat around 90 to 85% slider, something like that. Comes down in a nice way though, but we need to leave the ball guideline even more through the hole, as already said a couple of times, to have a chance on this tough par 5 of the Catcher Reserve. Hole number 7 is one of the tougher par 3s in the game to make an hole-in-one at, and I'm gonna explain why throughout this video. First, we do start by looking at the ball guideline to fall down into the bunker, approximately 1 ring from the pin. And the reason I want us to do that before spin is to somewhat find a reference that's going to be easy to replicate no matter what. Now, we use a lot of backspin, we're also going to use side spin to the right here to try to get the ball guideline to show that it's going to be short of pin, and it's very important that it's short of pin because otherwise we will come in way too hot. Medium distance with a 40% over adjustment, power 2 ball settings is what I'm using here in the video. Perfect ball, and you can see the ball bounce on the fairway. and it gets over, and we miss that one with a, approximately 0.3 to the left. You can also see that we come in a little bit too hot as well. So in the end though, ladies and gentlemen, with the bounce over shot here, we will see a inconsistent result, because it's once again very tough to find the correct spot all the time with our landing position. But with the suggested adjustment here, we will get ourselves close, and we will get a drop from time to time. If you do want to take a little higher risk but will also see yourself with a much better reward in the long run, then take a look at the rough bump that comes now. For the rough bump, I want us to play with a minimum a wind 3 ball, and that's why I'm playing with a Kingmaker. Start with the bottom of the inner ring by the rough line with ball guideline through the hole without spin. Very important. Once we have found that, we shall apply 2.1 bar of backspin and 0.5 bars of side spin to the right. In the video here, I do play maximum distance with a 30% over adjustment power 2 ball settings. Unfortunately, that is a mistake of mine, as I do play with a power 3 ball, as you notice. So we need to play with a power 3 ball here, which will give us a couple of extra decimals to adjust for. Center the ball, very important when you do play this aggressive line to not do any underpower or overpower whatsoever, because those things could risk you miss the rough, and then I'm not gonna say it's game over, but it's gonna be extremely tough for you to save the birdie. Now, again, I do make a mistake and I play power 2 ball numbers instead of power 3 ball numbers, and that's why we missed to the left, otherwise the shot would have dropped. But in the end though, this is a much more risky option than the bounce over shot, but it was important for me to find a line for you here, because I know there is going to be players out there that do want to take a little bit of a riskier approach when it comes to this hole. Hole number 7, which is in general pretty boring, so the rough bump is a little bit more fun. Let's drop it, let's go for hole 7. For hole number 8, we are going to play with the driver that gives us the most power possible. Here, I'm first looking if it would be possible to go for green directly, but it's not. So, I'm going to go back, I'm gonna play with a power 2 ball and the side spin 3, which is Katana, starting at +5 with extra mile level 8. 6 bars of top spin, 3 bars of side spin to the right. Now, adjustment is going to be maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment. Don't push up to max even though we're not in max. Now you can see here that I'm trying to judge, okay, what curl am I going to use? So I end up to use maximum curl with extra mile level 8, which is 0.9 ball outside to the right. I do know that if you play with a lower level type of extra mile, the max curl you will have is half a ball, and that's still going to be fine. The only risk with that is that you do have maybe not as much room for a bad great left. The thing that you can do is to change to a lower level apocalypse and still replicate the curl as used there with extra mile. 367 yards was the drive. From there, we're going to play with no spin, and we're going to rely on yardage. And the yardage is once again 367, and we're going to play 20% slider, 15% elevation. 5.8 is the wind, and we're going to pull over the bullseye, very important. Everybody. 2.3 rings is what we're adjusting, so 20% slider, 15% elevation, and let's hit perfect. Perfect ball! Bouncing nicely on the fairway, and it gets right at pin for a beautiful eagle here on hole number 8. For hole number 9, we're going to play a no movement, so we start with a power 3 ball this time, a Titan ball, and we're using max top spin 2 bars, a side spin to the right. Once that is done, we shall adjust max +10, push up to absolute max, and we're going to go full blast down the fairway with half a ball of curl to the right. The reason we go full blast here is that we do want to reach to a distance where we can use the sniper for our second shot. very bad great left, I must say, and we are somewhat lucky to not get this ball to go into the rough. You can see here that we are fairly close to the left side rough, but this is a good distance that we're getting though. And I'm not complaining about that. It's just that obviously with a perfect ball we would have been more to the right, and then that would have been, what can I say, maybe a little bit easier in terms of adjust for the second shot. But that didn't matter because now we are in plus yardage, and that is good. You can see here that we do have the plus 4 yard mark just by the edge of the rough, and that is what I'm going to use, because it's not every time we are going to have the plus yardage into the rough, because just face it, let's say that you have a great right or a perfect on the drive, we're gonna be closer to the pin, and that is something that we do need to have in mind. Ball guideline to go slightly through the hole because we're going to adjust further down, and we need to compensate for the rollout if doing so. 5.6 rings is what I'm adjusting, which is 72% slider minus 5% elevation. Perfect ball. And the ball bounces nicely into the rough, exactly where we aimed, and it rolls right at pin for a beautiful albatross here on hole number 9. Is this an albatross that I do count with dropping all the time? No, I'm not, but it is a really good line that we're having. The wind is definitely favorable for that beautiful rough bump, but make sure that you don't mess up the drive, which I were close on doing. But beautiful drop here, albatross on hole number 9. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough with the tournament win for the qualifying round of Pro Division and the Savannah Tournament here in Golf Clash the game. Make sure that you do hit that thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. Get the ultimate tournament guides for Pro Division or Expert or Master by going to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. You have the link directly in the description down below. Video sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Once again, thank you for watching and good luck in your Golf Clash game.